Ever book one of those, incredible vacation packages online and wonder who puts these things together? Like, seriously, how does it all work?
Well, get ready to go behind the scenes because we are diving deep, deep, deep into the world of tourism contract negotiators.
And joining me for this deep dive is a true expert in all things travel. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to dig into this.
I bet. This is cool stuff, honestly. So we've got some really interesting info here from RoleCatcher. It's a website, but not just any website. Think of it like the ultimate insider's guide to this whole career.
And what's really cool is that it's used by both, like people already working as negotiators A&D, those hoping to break in. So we're getting both sides of the story here.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. Okay, so first things first. What does a tourism contract negotiator actually do?
It can't just be haggling over prices all day, right?
It's actually way more than that. It's almost like a high-stakes juggling act when you
Oh,
really get into it. Think about all the moving parts. You've got those tour operators, right?
right.
So you got to stick to their budgets. And then you've got your service providers, the hotels, the airlines. They need to make a profit too, obviously.
Right, makes sense.
And then, of course, you've got the travelers themselves. They're looking for that amazing experience, the best deal, and the negotiator. They're stuck right in the middle, making sure everyone is happy.
Or at least as happy as you can be when you're talking contracts, right?
Exactly.
So it's like you're the diplomatic core of the vacation world.
Pretty much.
Except instead of like treaties and stuff, you're negotiating swimming pools and spa treatments.
There you go.
Okay, I'm getting that. That totally makes sense. But here's where it gets really interesting to me. Rollcatcher, they talk about how this whole career is actually heating up, more in demand than ever. And I'm thinking, really? With all the AI out there, travel apps, you'd think we'd need fewer people working these deals out.
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But it's actually the opposite.
No way. Why is that?
Well, it all comes down to the way the travel industry is changing. RoleCatcher highlights this a lot. Sustainable tourism is huge right now. And then you've got these niche travel markets, new technologies. It's not just about booking a flight and hotel room anymore.
So walk me through though. What does that have to do with, someone actually hammering out these contracts?
Imagine you're trying to, say, set up a deal with a chain of eco-lodges in the Amazon rainforest.
Okay.
This is way more complex than just getting the cheapest rate. You need to understand their sustainable practices, make sure the rates work for them and the tourists.
Right.
You might be dealing with language barriers, cultural differences. It's a lot.
Wow, that is a whole other level of expertise then, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not just knowing numbers. It's like you got to know people.
Exactly. And that's where those softer skills that RoleCatcher talks about come into play.
Yeah.
Active listening, persuasion. Those are huge in this line of work.
Yeah. Really? I guess I never thought about those as being like crucial job skills. I mean, they seem kind of basic, you know what I mean? Give me an example. How does that stuff play out in an actual negotiation?
Okay, let's say a hotel owner doesn't want to budge on their rates during peak season. A really skilled negotiator, they'll listen closely and might realize, hey, this hotel has a huge conference space that's just sitting empty.
Oh, I see.
So they propose a deal where, yeah, the room rate is firm, but they'll include use of that space for a tour group event or something like that. It's a win-win.
So it's about thinking outside the box, finding solutions that work for everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that takes a deep understanding of the industry and being able to think on your feet.
So what I'm hearing is this is the perfect job for someone who loves to travel, loves a challenge, and is basically a master diplomat.
Sounds about right.
But where do you even start in a career like this? I mean, it sounds amazing, but how do you break in? Thankfully, RoleCatcher actually lays out the career path pretty clearly, which is super helpful for anyone listening who might be intrigued by all this.
We're going to dive into that in just a bit, so don't go anywhere.
All right, so we are back and ready to map out that journey from tourism contract negotiation rookie to, dare I say, negotiation ninja. Where does somebody even begin in a career like this?
Well, RoleCatcher, they really hit hard on getting that experience,
Yeah.
getting your hands dirty early on. Internships, entry-level positions, even if it's just assisting those more seasoned negotiators. That's key.
So it's all about learning the ropes from the inside out, seeing how it all works firsthand.
Huh?
What kinds of things would someone be doing in those early roles? Like, what does that actually look like day to day?
Think of it as building that foundation. You might be drafting sections of contracts, doing a lot of research on market trends, maybe even just sitting in on meetings, observing how these negotiations play out in real time, just absorbing everything you can.
Okay, yeah. So even in those early stages, you're developing some really valuable skills, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Huh.
You're becoming a pro at research,
Mm.
understanding how to really analyze data, getting comfortable with all that contract lingo. These are things that can translate to just about any field, honestly.
Yeah, totally. It's like a crash course in like how to do business.
Exactly.
So you've put in the time, you've learned from the best. What's that next rung on the ladder look like?
That's when you start taking on more of that responsibility,
Yeah.
you know? So as a junior negotiator, you might handle some smaller contracts, start building those relationships with suppliers, really get into the weeds with your negotiation tactics.
Okay, so no more just shadowing. You're in the driver's seat,
Yeah.
but maybe with some training wheels on still.
Uh-huh, exactly. And then as you build that experience, that confidence, you might even find yourself leading a team, managing those higher value contracts, really thinking big picture strategy.
Wow, from intern to like negotiation mastermind.
It's a journey.
It really is. It sounds like it requires like constant learning, constantly adapting.
Yeah.
And speaking of adapting, RoleCatcher also has some really cool tools to help with, the actual job search itself, which can be a whole other beast.
Right.
Have you ever used that RoleCatcher.capture plugin?
I have. It's super useful if you're serious about landing a job, any job, but especially in this field.
It's a game changer for sure. You can save job postings from all over the place, LinkedIn, Indeed, company websites. Keeps it all organized right there in your RoleCatcher account.
So much better than those endless tabs.
Oh, tell me about it. I've been there. And, speaking of staying organized, something else RoleCatcher mentions is how AI is changing the game when it comes to actually getting hired. It's not just about impressing, like, a human recruiter anymore.
It's true. AI is everywhere, and recruitment is no exception.
So how do you win over a robot gatekeeper?
That's where tailoring your resume and cover letter to each specific job description becomes really, really crucial.
So important.
And thankfully, RoleCatcher has tools for that too. They can analyze job descriptions to find those exact keywords and skills that the applicant tracking systems are looking for.
Okay, so you're basically speaking the algorithm's language.
You got it. Use that technology to your advantage. But even with the perfect application, you still got to ace that interview.
Right, because at some point, you're going to have to talk to an actual human being. What are some of the questions that someone should be ready to answer in, like a tourism contract negotiation interview?
They're going to want to know you understand the tourism industry, like really understand it, the current trends, the challenges, how technology plays a role.
So not just the basics.
Right. They might ask about, say, the rise of VR tours and how that might change the way hotels market themselves. How would you negotiate contracts in that space, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you got to be thinking ahead, anticipating what's next for the whole travel world. What else? What else might they throw at you?
Your negotiation style, how you deal with conflict, how you build relationships. That's huge. Be ready to share examples of tough negotiations you've handled in the past, times when you had to get creative to find that win-win.
Because not every negotiation is going to be smooth sailing, right?
Exactly. Showing that you can stay calm, communicate clearly, find that common ground even when things get tense, that's essential.
Yeah, it's all about building those relationships, even when you're in there fighting for the best deal for your client. So much of this career seems to come down to those, like, people skills.
Which is interesting, right? It's not just about being a contract whiz. It's about understanding what makes people tick.
It's a people business at its core, but that doesn't mean you can't use technology to your advantage. Remember those AI tools RoleCatcher has. Some of them can actually help you prepare for your interview.
Wait, really? How does that work? What does AI-powered interview prep even look like?
Imagine recording yourself answering some practice questions and then having AI analyze your performance. Whoa, no way. Okay, so what? It's like gonna tell me to smile more or something.
It's way more in-depth than that.
Yes.
It analyzes your pacing, your tone, even your body language. Then it gives you specific feedback, things to work on.
That's amazing. It's like having your own personal interview coach.
Exactly. It's invaluable to get that objective feedback, especially if you tend to get nervous or you're just not sure what you're doing wrong.
It's like a secret weapon for your job search. So we've talked about the skills needed, the career path, how the interview process works, even how to use AI to your advantage. But before we wrap up this section, I want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture for a moment.
Sounds good to me.
So we've talked a lot about technology, AI especially, and how it's changing the game for this whole tourism contract negotiation world. It kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, what if? What if the negotiator of the future is, well, a bot?
Now, that is a really interesting thought. And honestly, it's not as crazy as it might have sounded a few years ago. We've already got AI drafting legal documents in other industries, so
Right, it's not that far-fetched. So you're saying theoretically, you could have an algorithm that analyzes like thousands of contracts, figures out the perfect price, all that stuff, and boom, it's churning out these deals super fast.
theoretically, yeah. And think about it. When you're dealing with that much data, an AI could probably even spot trends, opportunities that humans might totally miss.
Okay, so is that it then? Are we all doomed to be replaced by robots, even in a job that's as like people-focused as this one?
I wouldn't say doomed, no.
Mhm.
And here's the thing about travel, and it's why I think this particular job is safe, for now at least. It's about human connection. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Okay, explain that.
Think about the best parts of your vacations, the ones you remember. Was it like haggling over the price of your hotel room?
No way.
Or was it those conversations you had with locals, maybe an unexpected detour you took? Just that feeling of really experiencing a new place, a new culture.
It's the human element that makes it special. You're totally right.
Exactly. And AI, as smart as it's getting, it can't replace that. At least, not with the tech we have now. The ability to connect with someone on a personal level, understand those cultural nuances, build trust, those are the things that make a human negotiator so valuable, irreplaceable even.
So maybe it's not about AI replacing us, but working with us.
Now you're thinking. Imagine an AI assistant that handles all that data, the market research, even drafts up the initial contract, frees up the human negotiator to focus on those relationships, the strategy.
Okay, yeah. It's like having a superpower sidekick to take care of all that, like, tedious stuff.
Exactly. The AI could be there to provide insights, make recommendations, but the human is still the one calling the shots, using their judgment and experience.
That's a much more optimistic way to look at it. So the next time any of our listeners are, I don't know, sipping a drink on beautiful beach somewhere.
They can thank a skilled negotiator A&D some pretty impressive algorithms for making it all happen.
Exactly. It's a whole new world out there, and it's exciting to think about how these roles will keep evolving.
It really is. Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into the world of tourism contract negotiators. We covered a lot today, everything from the ins and outs of contracts to, like, what happens when AI takes over the world. Hopefully everyone listening has a new appreciation for the people who make those dream vacations a reality.
It's been great talking about all this.
It was so great having you. And for our listeners, the journey doesn't have to end here. If you're interested in this career, head over to RoleCatcher. Their website is seriously amazing. Tons of info, resources, even AI tools that can give you a leg up in your job search. Until next time, happy travels, everyone.